Behind me stands Fort St Elmo. It has guarded the harbour here in Valletta for centuries. It has witnessed crusades and revolutions, but today it houses a new and exciting heraldic authority. In this episode of Herbert's Heraldry, I'll be speaking to the man leading the charge, Dr Charles Gauci, who's Malta's Chief Herald of Arms. So join me as we step into the past and also look to the future as we sit down and have a chat with Dr Gauci about what this new heraldic authority means and the way forward, his new book. Dr Gauci, an absolute pleasure to be with you today. For my first question, I really wanted to ask you a little bit about what first drew you to heraldry and the sort of story. Was there any sort of moment in your life that suddenly you could point to that said, that was it, that is when I was hooked?
Well, I think it all dates back to the late Queen's coronation in 1953. I was a schoolboy in England, and our school had a school pageant to celebrate the occasion, and they dressed me up as a herald. And I was really, really proud, about 7 years old, I think. I was really, really proud of my uniform, and that sort of got me vaguely interested. And then as the years passed, I read a bit more and more, and then I remember getting hold of a copy of the Observer's Book of Heraldry, which I read from cover to cover, and that hooked me. And well, the rest of this is history.
Very good. You've had such a diverse career in the army and being a leader in pain management. Could you talk us through really how you ended up in your current role? What was it that sort of tied all of these things into this heraldic theme?
The military service was a family tradition. My grandfather was in the British Army in the First World War, my father in the Second World War, my brother was in the Royal Air Force, and his son, my nephew, was in the Royal Air Force. So I think the underlying thing is both a sense of Anglophilia, that we regarded Malta really and Britain as one country, separated by a bit of sea, and this love of tradition. And I've taken each thing. Well, one thing you didn't mention, I'm president of the local band club in my village, please.
That's very important.
That's very important, even though I don't know about music. But anyway, and I've taken each thing as a challenge. I mean, to a certain extent, I've been controversial in my career, but everything is a challenge. And I remember even in pain medicine, I was one of those group of interventional pain specialists who preferred doing procedures on patients to get rid of their pain rather than filling up with drugs or treating them all as if they had some psychiatric disease. So I've always been a bit controversial because I go, but when I believe in something, I go all out.
So an incredible journey to where you are today. Can you tell us a little bit about establishing the office of the Chief Herald and how that came about?
Well, heraldry, as you know, is everywhere in Malta. Wherever you look, you see coats of arms. And I've been trying very, very hard for 50 years, I don't know how long, to convince the authorities to have our own heraldry office. And I was brushed aside, treated as a bit of a pain in the posterior. But believe it or not, it's all thanks to the Royal British Legion.
Really?
Because a few years ago, I was president of the Malta branch of the Royal British Legion because I'm ex-service. And I was at a function in Floriana. Mm-hmm. I was due to place a wreath on the RAF monument. And lo and behold, there was the Prime Minister, minding his own business, probably thinking about what he was going to say. He was on his own, so I rushed up to him and I gave him my sales pitch about heraldry.
And what did he say?
And he said, look, that sounds interesting. Write me a paper on this. So I went home and I said, oh yeah, I'm going to write a paper. And as we say in the army, it'll be filed in file 13, which is the dustbin. But I wrote the paper, many pages long, forgot all about it. 2 or 3 weeks later, I was in Valletta, and suddenly I see the cabinet secretary, who's now the chairman of Heritage Malta, and he crossed the road, came to me and said, listen, the Prime Minister liked your paper. We're seriously thinking of taking it up, but we want another paper with some other things explained, which he told me. So I went home, wrote that paper. A few weeks later, I got a nice letter from Heritage Malta telling me that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Secretary have decided to establish the office of the Chief Herald of Arms via Heritage Malta, and could I please become Malta's first ever Chief Herald? I said, I'll think about it. So we were set up. We had some challenges, I mean, both locally and abroad, really from people who either generally or because they had other criteria, started questioning this, that and the other, my authority and all that. So, but I've explained to them in detail what we do and what the powers we have and what have you. But obviously if people want to criticize, then it's a free country. They can do what they like.
So what did the formal parliamentary confirmation in 2022, what did that mean to you personally, and what did it look like?
Well, we were established by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Office, and it was all published in the Malta Government Gazette. It was all official. But I still had that niggling feeling that if perhaps another government was elected, they might say, oh, listen, this is a bloody waste of time, pardon my French. This is a waste of time. Let's get rid of Heraldry. We don't need it. And they could just get rid of us.
Yeah.
So, no, I said, we want to be in the legislation. So again, I started another campaign. Prime Minister, politicians, Heritage Malta, the Minister. And we got a change in the legislation. The Cultural Heritage Act was changed specifically to establish the Office of Chief Herald of Arms. So now we are firmly established within the laws of Malta. So you can't get rid of us that easily. And then what happened a few months after the Cultural Heritage Act was changed, the government published what's called the legal notice, where in great detail they put in everything about the Office of the Chief Herald, what we can do, what we can't do, and everything. So it's all there in black and white. We are now part of the legal establishment in Malta. So we're here to stay.
Very good. And it must have been quite a challenge, because presumably you had to have both sides of the House agree.
Yeah, it was unanimous. Because I said...
It's very rare for Maltese legislation.
I said, it's going to go to the House, we're going to have... No, unanimous. But people realise that this is culture, nothing to do with politics.
Sure.
And I'm very apolitical myself, so it's part of our history.
So the office is set up, and suddenly, you have an official basis for granting arms, and you're often described as being controversial.
Me? Oh.
Why do you think that is? I mean, you've blazed this trail, and you've taken the huge melting pot that is Malta's history, and you've sort of regulated heraldry in Malta for the first time under the Republic. Why would you say there's this sort of controversial...
Well, I'm only controversial in that if I firmly believe in something, then I do it. And if people object, then I try to explain to them, not once, but again and again and again and again and again and again, as the nursery rhyme goes. But then if they don't want to understand what we're about, then... I mean, in Malta, as well, Maltese are not people who like to change their ideas very quickly, especially with the old nobility. And, for example, if great granny said something about a coat of arms, then that is it.
It must be true.
Yeah. And when I tried to explain to them, perhaps great granny's knowledge of heraldry wasn't all that extensive.
Right.
Sacrilege.
Right. Yeah? Right. And did you think that there might be something in the fact that people just don't like change sometimes, or they've got an idea in their head and everything's fixed, or they've learned something?
I don't know. I mean, to a certain extent, change, yes. But also, I'm very mystified by I think it's died down now, most. But anyway, if people tell me I've been criticised on Facebook, I say, have I? No, so I don't go. I don't read that sort of. But why? I mean, we're established in law. We're in the written law of the country. I don't know what the objections are, if there still are any, but they might still be. I don't know, and I don't care.
So Malta has a unique system of heraldry and the process by which it's evolved. What would you say are the main things that set it apart from perhaps other heraldic traditions like sort of England or Scotland?
Well, in the past, I'll probably say later, it's been a bit of a free-for-all in Malta, and people just do what they like with coats of arms. And now in devising our system, which is explained in my last book, The Way Forward, we use as a basis the English, Scottish and Italian systems, but then modified them to take into account our own traditions. For example, in Malta, there is no concept of arms just going down the main line. In Malta, arms go down both male and female line. There's no concept of heraldic areas.
Okay.
So people come to you and they want to display a coat of arms which came to them through the female line. You can't tell them no, because it's not through the male line. You can't. That's not our tradition. So also, for example, we have different coronets. We have different positions for the coronets, all these things, which gradually are evolving. But we don't stick to one system rigidly. We have to adapt to our own situation.
And you've got three main coronets. So you've got sort of baron and count.
We have noble,
Yeah.
Marquis, Count, Baron. And those are the 4 ones.
Yeah. And no viscounts have applied yet.
Not, I don't think so.
You've had a huge, presumably since 2022, and even before, you've had a huge number of applications.
Yeah. We're at the moment. In fact, I just received another email today. We're correcting the proofs for the volume 1 of our Register of Arms, which covers 2019 to 2024, 5 years.
Okay.
And we've had a large number of registrations and grants, and also pedigrees, because we register arms, we grant arms, and we also register pedigrees.
Excellent.
So what we've done, we've set our own system up based on Italian, English, Scottish, a bit of this, a bit of that, to take in our traditions. But it's not set in stone. We're evolving. So as I meet a new situation, I scratch my head. I said, I never met this before. And I have to consult people and then modify as we go along.
So I suppose what a lot of people are wondering is, obviously, feudal tenure is abolished in Malta, and there are all these fiefs that existed at various different points throughout history, either granted by the knights or even earlier. Are they still in existence today? And how many are there that might still be attached to
to be honest, I don't think in a program like this, it's a time and place to go into great detail about succession to Maltese titles. I've spent all my life writing about them.
And we can find out in the way forward if we want.
The bottom line is that titles of nobility are no longer recognized in Malta. Now, in my letters patent and recognition document, I'm allowed by law, it's all in writing, to mention titles for cultural and historical reasons. But that does not imply that they are recognized by the state. The state does not recognize them, but I'm allowed to mention them because they're historical and cultural facts. But it's all explained in the way forward in that book. And in the previous book, the Peerage and Knightage in Malta.
And are you going to write any more?
I'm correcting the drafts for the volume 1 of our Register of Arms, and I'm also now signed the contract a few weeks ago to write a book about the heraldry of the Cathedral at Mdina. Which is beautiful,
and has all of those fantastic tombs with heraldry on almost every single one.
I'm going to reproduce pictures of every single one, translate the inscriptions from Latin into English, say a few words about the individuals, and probably I'll emphasize the coat of arms of each. They're all Maltese.
Because actually, I was in there a few days ago actually, and I really would have been very useful to have that guide because and some of the heraldry in there is actually fantastic. It's got sort of some things I haven't seen before really in some of the ways it's
because a lot of it is ecclesiastical heraldry. A lot of the people who buried there are monsignori, monsignors. So they have ecclesiastical hats with tassels and this and that. I've actually writing this up because I've already even before I signed the contract, I was busy, and I've learned a lot about ecclesiastical heraldry, which I didn't know before. It's never been my strong point, but it's fascinating.
What's one thing from this sort of ecclesiastical heraldic world that you were particularly?
You've got to get the number of tassels right.
Yes.
If you're a priest, a canon, a monsignore, a bishop, an archbishop, a cardinal, get the tassels right.
And the colours, I guess.
All the colours, yes, violet and black, and so fascinating.
So can families today that they've been going through their family tree, they've put some sort of pedigree together, if they come to your office and they say, look, I'd like to sort of recapture this particular family, I'd like to sort of have this bit of heritage, would you happily sort of take into account previous coats of arms?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would, if they come to me with a pedigree, first of all, I verify that it's correct, because anybody can say that their great-grandfather was the Emperor of China. So I have to verify. And then if it's verified, then we put it in, and it's registered as a separate pedigree. I also allow pedigrees to be reproduced in the letters patent and documents of registration, but only up to 10 generations.
Okay.
But if people want, the whole thing, many generations, then they have to separate them. They have to register them separately as a pedigree.
And do a lot of people want to put the pedigree in the patent?
Yeah, yes. Most people do.
Really? Okay. And a lot of Italians, I imagine, also.
Oh yeah, but I'm Italian's not the problem. I speak fluent Italian, so I'm happy with the documents. It's Italian. Yes. I struggle along in French and German and Spanish to Italian, but But there's always Google Translate anyway.
And the patent, so, because I know in Canada, of course, they have the French on one side and the English on the other. Do you have, can the petitioner choose which language, whether it's
everything is in English.
Everything's in English, okay.
Except one chap wanted it in English and Maltese.
Okay.
But luckily my registrar, Chevalier Cassin, is very good, very, very good. It's got a very good knowledge of Maltese grammar.
Excellent.
So you see, by law, when somebody applies for arms to grant or register, we have to put them in the Malta Government Gazette.
Of course.
Giving people 21 days around the world to object if they want
Has anyone ever objected?
No, not so far. Okay. But they have to appear in English and Maltese. Okay. And I mean, tell you, to translate Anglo-Norman blazon into Maltese is not easy, but my registrar does it. And also at the end of the year, by law, we have to, in the Malta Government Gazette, publish every single coat of arms that has passed through our office for the past year in English and Maltese. But
what would you say are the three main nationalities, or the top three nationalities that have applied in numbers?
Apart from Maltese, you mean?
Apart from after the Maltese, so
Americans, Italians, and can't think of probably UK.
Yeah. Okay. Those three.
But the majority are English, are Americans and Italians.
Okay. So you've written a bit in the way forward, which, by the way, I brought for you to sign later, shamelessly. You've written a bit about the ability for the current title holder in Malta to nominate their successor. Could you tell us a little bit about that and whether or not that pathway is presumably now closed?
Well, in the old days, under the knights, the majority of titles were to be inherited by primogeniture, although some were also open to more than one holder, but that's another argument. But a few titles had this prerogative of nomination, that the title holder could nominate somebody who wasn't his firstborn son or daughter to inherit. Okay. And this has happened and caused a lot of problems. Sure. But in the days under the knights, now, an act of nomination always required royal assent.
Approval. Right.
Royal assent. Now, in the days of the knights, the Grand Master would give his assent, and then the heir would be invested as the new title holder.
Sure.
Fine. Now, the knights left, the Brits took over, and the royal assent was given by the governor on behalf of the crown.
Okay.
So that was working well. But now in 1975, we became a republic. So, royal assent vanished.
Okay.
Also, under the 1975 Jiha Republica Act, notaries were precluded from putting anything in a document, in a will or anything that referred to a title of nobility.
Right.
So therefore, de jure, the act of the power of nomination vanished. So really now all titles, if they're going to go on, should go on by primogeniture. Now we, in the Office of Arms, are allowed to mention titles of nobility, and also because as cultural and historical facts, and we can then award, in inverted commas, heraldic symbols like supporters, coronet, and have you, which they are simply the pictorial manifestation of a cultural fact, and the government would recognize those arms as belonging to that gentleman. But that's where it ends. It will not say, we recognize that, and therefore his account is... No, that picture belongs to him.
Okay, and so you use your discretion to kind of determine who is entitled to which picture, effectively.
But I must emphasize that this is not recognition.
Absolutely.
This is simply cultural and historical facts, verbally and pictorially, and the government is recognizing that picture as being the property of that individual. That's where it ends. So anybody who's saying that we're selling titles or we're inventing titles, it's either stupid.
So it's just it's heraldry focus, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to go back to the faculty to nominate. So basically, once so someone has nominated someone in the past, that's fine. Does it then now? Of course, it's not possible. So presumably
it
happens.
This is Malta. Everything happens here. Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't. But now, in theory, if someone came to you and they said, "Okay, I have this person nominated me," you would say, "Well, actually, was it before or after 1975?"
Well, in theory, I could. But again, you see, I don't want to commit myself because I don't know what the hell. Because they'll say, "You said." So I've learned my lesson now.
Okay.
I keep
so
my mouth
on a case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case basis.
Okay, and it's focused on the heraldry.
But it has caused problems in the past, where, for example, the title holder fell out with his son and then nominated the daughter. So the money had to go, because the money has to go by primogeniture,
right,
to one line, and the title went to the other.
Interesting.
It's happened, and it's caused family feuds which have persisted to this day. I mean, they don't fight each other, but they wouldn't exactly pat each other on the back when they meet.
They're not happy about it. Okay.
It's all history.
So I have with me a copy of The Way Forward,
I have a biro,
which you're definitely going to sign for me. But just before you do, can you tell us a little bit about what are the main myths that you wanted to debunk with this book? What were you looking to sort of set the record straight with?
Well, I've set the record straight about some things concerning the Maltese nobility. Again, it's not the time and the place to go into it. If people want to buy the book, it's all there. But on the heraldry side, for example, we went into the things like the position and orientation of the helm. People come to me and they want a face forward, a helm facing forward. Sorry, you can't have that. No. That's limited to the president.
Okay.
Or you can't have this. So the helm. Also the coronet. In the old days, some people placed the coronet of rank on the shield. Some placed it on the helm.
Oh, okay.
We had to do that.
So you had to devise a system to standardize.
To standardize. And also, very important, inheritance of arms, impalement and quarterings. Complete confusion. Sometimes people, when inherited arms, impaled them. Sometimes they quartered them without any rhyme or reason. And also, some female title holders use the male form of arms with shield, helmet, and crest.
Okay.
But you can tell people, look, historically, it was the custom there. And then if they insist, then they insist. They have every right to insist if they want it.
So some people argue that restricting heraldry, and especially in a place where it's been so free for a long time and you can basically adopt what you want, is wrong, or it's restrictive and people should just assume arms and it should all be a total sort of free-for-all. What would you say to those people?
Well, Malta is a free country and nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. Okay. But if people want a coat of arms which is recognized by the state, and Malta is a sovereign state in the EU and the Commonwealth, and therefore the arms should be recognized all over the world, then they have to do it via our office and follow our rules. So he said that they don't have to. They can invent their own arms. Nobody's going to put them in prison. But
So it's the best of both, you'd say. So since the book has been published, would you say there's been a dramatic increase in applications to your office of lots of people, or do you get a lot of queries? Do the public often ring you with things?
Oh yes, I mean the book. First of all, the book has done extremely well. It's sold all over the world. Heritage Malta gave me a little map showing me where the sales have been, and it's amazing. It's all over the world. So yes, I have got lots and lots of requests for arms, and people usually send me emails, and then I explain to them. I send them the terms. I send them what the costs are. Then it's up to them if they want to proceed or not. And I'm not going to make an advert for it, but the charges are not exorbitant. But yes, they are what they are.
So how does your office interact with other heraldic authorities? Have you, for example, spoken to the Bureau of Heraldry in South Africa, or have you spoken to the Office of Lord Lion? How have you sort of navigated people that might have an existing grant in another jurisdiction and they come to you because either they're living here or they would like a grant?
Well, as soon as I was appointed, I made courtesy visits to Edinburgh and London, and I met Lord Lion and I met Garter in person and explained to them what we were going to do. Yes, I mean, in general, we have good relations with other state offices, because if somebody comes to me with a coat of arms which was granted or registered or certified by another state-organized, state-controlled office of arms, then obviously we automatically register. We don't quibble. Okay. It's a courtesy from one hand to the other.
So presumably by that you mean you won't register something that is not that hasn't been granted by a state authority?
No, if they've been assumed or if they've been granted by a private organisation, then as long as they obey our rules, we will re-grant them. So you come to me with a set of arms which are perfectly reasonable. I can't register them because you've assumed them or they've been granted to you by some private organisation. I'll take them, and if they're not outrageous, with too many capes and this and that, then I will re-grant them. And now, having been re-granted, they now have the recognition of the state of Malta, and which is, like I say, a sovereign country in the EU and in the Commonwealth. But we have to use our system, and there's no point telling me, oh look, in Scotland they do this or England that. Fine, good luck to them. But we have our own system. We can borrow from other people's systems, but in the bottom line is we have our own system, we have our own rules, we have our own regulations, which are all down there in the way forward because we've published a legal notice, and that's what we follow.
Yeah.
So
it's quite simple.
It's simple. We have our own regulations.
Have you had, what is the most, the most sort of outrageous, coat of arms someone's wanted to register, 20 capes and 15 sort of battles?
Oh, I have many people wanting with capes and crowns as opposed to coronets, and so I have to. You
have to rein them in a bit.
Yeah, yes. But I mean, with common sense, that people understand. I tell them, it's fine, but we I haven't got the power under our.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, if some ex-reigning monarch comes to me and says, I want a coat of arms, then obviously I have to consider the situation, and saying, if your father sat on the throne, how am I to deny you the right of a crown on your coat of arms? But in general, I'm pretty pragmatic. I spent 16 years in the British Army, so pragmatism is my middle name. And I'm not didactic. I look at every single case individually, and then I decide.
What's your view of the International Commission on Orders of Chivalry? Do you have a particular relationship with them? And what do you think?
Well, ICOC, International Commission for the Orders, it's a private organisation and it hasn't got any real power. And its members have got their own ideas and to a certain extent their own agendas. Now, I was invited to join the ICOC a few years ago. I spent 2 months and then I resigned. I don't really want to go into detail about it, but it hasn't got any power. I mean, I guess so. Some people sit around the table and say, "We decide this, we decide that." Good luck to them,
So similar, presumably, with the committee privileges. In fact, it's a sort of private organisation, presumably.
Oh, the committee privileges are totally private organisations. Has no powers whatsoever. But again, I won't enter into detail in this because
no. Well, it's all in the book.
I'll probably say something I shouldn't say, knowing me.
So, looking to the future, I want to talk about future generations and heraldry and how we can inspire younger people to be involved with heraldry and genealogy. What is your sort of office doing to sort of look to the future?
Well, luckily we have the support of Heritage Malta, who is our parent organisation, and we organise lectures and books that I've written and still in the pipeline. And my registrar is saying writing a book for heraldry for children. But my ambition is to have an international congress in Malta on heraldry, but it's not going to be something I'm going to achieve. It'll have to be my successor because I'm getting on in years now. But we're certainly keeping the flame alight. We're doing a lot, and lots and lots of people write to me about their coat of arms, about their family arms, and I tell them, look, I can't go into detail about your family coat of arms, but I give them the references at the public library. Say, look, these are the manuscripts. Go and look for them yourself. I haven't got the time to do this for you. But lots of people who don't actually go on to have formal coat of arms want to know about their family arms. Because in Malta, remember, people of the same family tend to use the same coat of arms. Sure. So all the Gaucis use this, all the Buttigieg's use that, which is really wrong because how can you tell one person from the other? Of
course.
But there are books and there are old manuscripts in the public library, and I give them the references and they can go and look and do their own research.
Excellent. And do you ever go and talk to schools or universities? I mean, you certainly spoke to the Cambridge University Heraldic and Genealogical Society. Do you end up giving a lot of talks?
I do them by invitation, but I'm so busy now with my other things, my writings and books and things that I really haven't got the time. But if somebody really asks me to do a presentation, I'll do it. I mean, I love doing it. I love doing these things. But when I first got to Malta, from having retired from UK. I used to be shocked at the attitude of the Gozzetans. Like going from Gozo to Malta was going to Timbuktu, and you had to have a week's leave and a week's counselling for it. I've become just like Gozzetan. I've become completely Gozzetan. If I have to go to Malta, oh God, I've got to go to Malta. It's like, it's 20 minutes. You've been to 20 minutes on the ferry. It's not exactly. But it's a big, to go to Malta for me has now become a big event.
So you prefer to have your calls on Google Meets or Zoom or, so we'll send you links. That's the way.
Zoom is fine because you can sit down there with your doggy by your side and a nice cold drink and you can talk. Mm-hmm. But having to go down to Malta, to go there, to set it all up, to stand up, and it's a bit too much. But I'll do it if I have to.
Can you tell us a little bit, speaking of the future, has your office used any AI to kind of quickly mock up some shields or blazons?
No, I'm the wrong person because for me it's only an on-off switch. Uh-huh. That's what my knowledge of computers goes.
Yeah.
But I the other day, excuse me, somebody fed a blazon into one of these AI things, and the picture came out. It was perfect except for one small detail, because it mistook a collar around the neck of the eagle for a collar on the shield. But apart from that, it's perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
I think it's really going to have a huge effect on people being able to pop a blazon in and then produce a fairly good kit advance. But you still have to really check it, because you've got to you've got to have an understanding of the knowledge.
But I think that's going to be the future.
Yeah.
But it's a shame, because it's going to kill off the heraldic artist.
Well, I hope not. I think people hopefully will still seek to
well, I think so. I mean,
we
employ some very good artists, and they do a very good job. So,
and digital letters patent. This is something that you have sort of pioneered in your office. So you quite quickly, presumably, your turnaround is much faster, because you don't have to have a sheet of vellum.
No. That's all done by the graphic designer. But having said that, we are now going to offer the option of vellum with calligraphy and seals and everything else. But I'm going to say, if you're interested in this, contact me directly. I'm not going to offer it as a general thing, because if you want that, I've got somebody wrote to me. I won't mention names, that he is into all this, and I said, okay, well, I'll keep your name in reserve, and should we have anybody, I have got one person actually who has it all on calligraphy, but he's done it all himself. He's employed somebody in the UK, and he's going to come over. I've given him the wording. He's going to come over. We're going to seal it for him and all the rest. But
so it is possible to actually have, if you want to, you could go to one of the excellent sort of private heraldic artists, like, for example, Neil Bromley, or
I won't mention names.
I will. I can. Or you can indeed go to Quentin Peacock, and you can have either a digital version, or you could have something done on vellum.
If somebody said, look, I'll tell them obviously this is going to cost much more than it would. But if you've got money to spend and you want to do it, we can do it vellum. We can do it with calligraphy. We can do it with seals. Because I've got two seals prepared now.
You like those seals, I think. Yeah, it's quite fun. Give it a whack.
I'd like to use my ring, but it's got stuck in. We've got that facility available if anybody wants it.
Fantastic. Very good. Good to know. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm delighted that you're one of the first guests on this podcast, and I look forward to chatting to you maybe again soon. Thank you. Thank you very much.